You're listening to the Canned Fruit Podcast with your favorite trio, Danielle, Jess, and Kia. We will have meaningful conversations on what it looks like to have compassion and respect when communicating with others. This show is a safe and brave space to open up, so let's start. Welcome back to another episode of Canned Fruit, where we talk about everything leading to candid and fruitful conversations, from active listening to being introspective, all of those beautiful little bites that we have brought you throughout the whole season. And now today is our final episode. Can you believe it, girls?
Cannot believe it.
Me either. Me
Grown
either.
so much, and you've grown with us.
We've grown so much in 9 episodes.
And yet it's true. I mean, think about all the stuff that we've talked about. I'm struggling to even remember all of it. Gosh, I looking back on that first episode where we were talking about why this is important to us, and everything we've talked about since then just makes it feel that much more important. Like, just seeing how much I've grown in the few weeks that we've been recording these episodes, right?
Yeah. I even just like, I'm sitting here and I'm not only how much have we've grown, but like how much more I see it as necessary. Like, I'm seeing these conversations pop up more and more. I'm seeing them not be easy, you know, even though we're talking through all this stuff. So that's like my reflection so far.
Yeah.
Is that it's so important. It's like, once you see it, you can't unsee it, and then you're forced to like practice the good steps.
That's
I
it.
tell you, that is draining.
Takes some energy. Yes,
it takes some energy.
It is.
But it's good. It's a good place for the energy to go, I think, at least.
Yeah,
I think it's a good place because you spend the energy trying to make your conversations more productive, more candid and fruitful, and you spend less energy on the negative outcomes that could have come if you hadn't taken the time to do that. So yeah.
Speaking about negative things, I feel like throughout this season, we've really been vulnerable with each other and kind of highlighted, I would say, more so our shortcomings when it comes to conversation, and made examples of ourselves. But do you guys have anything that you're feeling particularly good about, that you want to celebrate for yourself? Like, wow, I feel like not only the things that you've done well previously, but maybe some things that through the season, while you're focused in on those really difficult conversations, you're saying like, wow, I'm getting better at this. I'm actually getting better at this.
Ooh.
I'm getting better at recognize when I could have actively listened, because I'm definitely one of those people who goes in like you're talking to me and I'm trying to solve the problem. And what I love about active listening is that I don't have to be in that mode, but it's such a default mode for me that, like, one person said, they're like, oh, well, I wasn't expecting for you to solve it. And I'm like, yeah, because you could have just been listening, Kia. So I'm more cognizant of when I should just be actively listening, but even that was like a sideways diss to myself. So let me be completely positive.
Yep.
And say I'm very proud of where I've been coming in my emotional intelligence growth, quite honestly, recognizing my own emotions, calling out or identifying my own emotions and seeing it in other people. But I'm proud of myself for knowing myself better.
Wow.
Yes, Kia.
What's that? Snaps for Kia.
About to do an ugly cry. That was good. Partly the reason why I'm like holding back ugly cry tears is because, like, one of the things I've recognized, and even as you were talking, Kia, how it's like how you had to be proactive to say the positive thing, you know?
Yes.
And so just, I really appreciate forcing, you know, indirectly forcing us to say it in a positive light, because all I was seeing is, my gosh, there's so much room for growth.
Yeah.
There's so much room.
I got a lot of work to do.
I've got a lot of work to do. Still have a lot of work. So in the conversation we were talking about last time, what I realized that I'm getting better at is, in a weird way, setting limits, but not the way that I initially thought I would. Setting limits around how much emotional investment I put into something after the conversation is done. Or in moments where I can no longer control what's about to happen. And that's something that is taking me a lot of like energy, that we were saying before, because my default is to stew and to sit in it. And this, just seeing myself over the past week after a very difficult conversation, and being able to redirect my energy after that and go invest in myself, invest in people that love me, continue to be productive in a way that I would really go into fetal position in the past after a difficult conversation, and just kind of like physically need to be in a hole. Like I'd make a cubby in my comforters and just be by myself for a while, and to continue to like, I guess it's the first time I'm seeing it as I set a boundary. I was like, okay, I've had this conversation. It's hard and it may continue to be hard, but it's not going to seep into these other parts of my life. And I'm just, I'm really proud of myself for that. I'm really grateful for you all, because you helped me get there.
That sounds very freeing.
It's new. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you one thing. It is new. And with freedom it's, I don't think it's particularly a saying, but I think there is a price to freedom. I guess that's the saying, right? And there's a price to freedom. And so I've been tired and feeling really drained, like to keep pulling myself back into the present, pulling myself away from those deep thoughts. And it is freeing, and I am grateful that I'm paying the price of exhaustion to find new levels of freedom. Yeah.
That's like a muscle. When you keep working it out, it won't even be.
He is like, he is like, my boundaries stay in the gym. Okay. You gotta keep the muscles.
World champion boundaries.
Yes.
Okay.
Just doing push-ups with the shoulders. That's all you. But yes, so that's what I'm proud of.
Beautiful. Mine I think is probably I think it was really highlighted in our last conversation when I realized that people who you feel you have so much in common with, like the two of you, can approach something so differently, and really have kind of like, I would describe the three of us as having similar values. But then when you start to break it down, I can tell that our boundaries rank in different priority levels, right? I'm like, oh, they do it so differently. And that to me is just, it's made me take things less personally. I felt this sense of relief of like, people not seeing it the way that I see it isn't like a personal attack on me, of like this like lack of understanding of who I am and how I operate, right? Because even people who I feel are very close to me are coming from their own place, right? Like that's really kind of relieving in a way, and I'm hoping to continue to see that. And I think I did it before, and I would always say like, oh, I'm pretty good at like making excuses for other people, at like trying to fill in the blanks of where they might be coming from or seeing their perspective. And I think I'm looking at it as more of a positive now. It's not, I'm not making excuses for those people. I'm trying to understand them, right? I'm trying to empathize with them better. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. Yeah, that's
their
it.
Life experience.
Yeah. Yes. And why that might be different from mine. Yeah. And see the value in that too, right? It's kind of like this weird full circle thing. But so putting kind of everything together, has anybody had a conversation recently where they're like, wow, all of these things came in handy? Oh no, Kia's making a face. Kia's making a face.
It came in handy, but it's definitely been more in the forefront. Like as I've been evaluating things. Well, here we go. So
get into it, Kia.
Recently, it was necessary to have a meeting with my son's teacher. I'll say I saw a quote literally this morning that that just made me think like, this is why it's difficult for me, because we talked about, what makes a conversation difficult. For me, this is what made the conversation difficult. So this is a quote from Elizabeth Stone that says, making the decision to have a child, it is momentous. It is to decide forever to have your heart go walking around outside your body.
I heard that, and it's true.
It's just, it's hard because I'm defending my heart. We need to talk about how you treat my heart. How can we make things better for my little itty bitty heart? So anyways, very much a rambunctious boy. And one of the concerns that has been identified at school is that he has problems concentrating sometimes. And so I'll also say that I think we've talked about that we live in Britain. So in Britain, the schools are a little bit different than than the US, where I grew up, if you haven't told from my accent. And because of his birthday and that it's in later in the year, he's one of the youngest ones in his class. So that's the situation. My husband goes to pick up our son from school one day, and just because he does this, and I never do, but now I guess I will. He says, hey, how was his day today? Teacher pulls him aside, talks about, he's having a lot of trouble concentrating, and he's the last one to finish his work, and all these different things. And says that they're going to start a sticker chart, so he'll have a goal of X number of stickers a day. And if he stays focused and on task, he'll get the stickers for that subject, because they have multiple subjects in the day. And so they do the sticker chart for, I guess, like a few days. And one day he comes home and he has no stickers. And so we ask him, and he's like, I worked really hard, but the teacher just didn't give me any stickers today. So I didn't know my husband had already emailed, like right after he picked him up from school, looked at the chart, saw there were no stickers. He didn't see the teacher at pickup. So he emailed and said, hey, what's going on? I think about it all day and night. Well, I'll just say all night, I guess, because this is after school now. We've talked about it. I need some time to think about how I feel. And I could have used more time to think about how I feel, but I didn't want this to go on for too long. So I emailed the teacher maybe the next morning. Then she responds and she says, oh, I'm so sorry. I wasn't in school yesterday, so he didn't get any stickers because I wasn't there to give them to him. And so such a simple, reason for it to happen. But in my email, I said, I want to meet with you so we could talk about the sticker chart, what's going on with the sticker chart, how do we get stickers on the sticker chart, what is considered successful. And I realized that I'm like the mechanics person. I'm like, how does this work? How do we make this best work? And my husband is more like the feelings person. How is the chart going to maybe to motivate him? How is the chart going to affect him with his classmates if they don't have charts, that type of thing. And so also in our conversations during pickup, find out, again, my husband usually does school pickup. So he talks to her another time after the sticker chart's been out for a little while and says, oh, he's responding so well to the sticker chart this time. Me and my husband are like, this time, we just started doing the sticker chart. What do you mean? Well, no, actually, that's what I said when my husband told me about it. He said, yeah. Yeah, apparently they've tried the sticker chart already. It wasn't as successful the first time. And that, I can't think of a better way to say it. That pissed me off. I don't like that. Here we go. So I believe in the classroom as the teacher's domain. That's her area of expertise. If we haven't talked about it before, I'm definitely into that's your area of expertise. You do that. And the classroom, to me, should be the teacher's area of expertise. When he's in class, though, he is still my son. I am still his parent. And so if you determine that sticker charts are the best way to motivate him, talk to us about it. If we agree, continue to do the sticker chart, right? But it made me mad for that reason, and it made my husband mad for a different reason, which is you did this intervention the first time and it didn't work. And now you've done the intervention, but you've actually talked to us about it. We're aware of it. Now we can talk to our son. Now we can ask him, I guess, more pointed questions about his day, not just because I usually ask him, how was your day? What was your favorite thing about today? What was the nicest thing you did for somebody today? Like we go through that, but now we can be like, were you focused on your work today? Asking just different questions. But anyways, and now all of a sudden, now that we're involved and can contribute to this intervention, it's all of a sudden just working so well. And my husband's like, and it feels like she's taking credit for it, when really we believe it's because now it's a team working together.
Mm-hmm. Can I just sort of jump in?
Yeah, I was going to say I've talked a lot, so.
No, I also don't think the story is over. I just want to note something that I had sensed is that it took you some time to say that it pissed you off, and I just want to, like, as the feeler, want to remind myself, give myself validation through you that it's okay to be pissed off, right? That emotion is warranted and reasonable in the midst of the story so far. Based on what you've said, I would have been pissed off after the first sentence. You got through lots of sentences and then decided you were pissed off. So I just want to name that I saw that, and I want to, without, you didn't ask me to do this, but I think just validate the fact that I would have felt the same way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And you're gentler about it than I was.
But I did want to stop. I was still going to stop anyways. Was there any questions or anything that maybe I haven't gotten to or made unclear or anything?
I mean, I kind of want to hear what happened, and then I'll jump back and figure out if yeah, where do I need to be the most mad? Because
I know, right?
Where
I'm conserving.
Yeah, where me and Jessica are sitting here like, okay.
It's building. It's building.
We're waiting, depending on, because we can pounce if you want to go and to pounce, but just
no, we don't need to pounce.
Tell us what she said face to face.
Yeah.
So that was one of the things when I was thinking about. So in my email, I'm like, we need to talk about the sticker chart and let's set up some time. And so, I think it was maybe the week before we had that conversation. I was in this coaching class because, I'm working on my emotional health and emotional intelligence and all kinds of different things, trying to grow and be a better person. And
the world is testing me.
Doesn't it feel like it though? You start a podcast and now everybody wants to have conversation.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Like no one was talking to me before. And so the coach said something that I found interesting and try to apply a lot now, which is she talked about noble intent or believing in noble intent of people, and that basically they're trying to do their best. And I kind of true. I don't assume everybody is trying to attack me or anything like that, but I don't always assume noble intent. But I like the way that she phrased it better, and I could get behind this definition, which she then told me, I said, I loved when you said that. And she said, well, actually it was Brene Brown. I'm like, oh, of course it was. But she said, are people doing the best they can with the tools that they have been given? So I just... Cool. Danielle had a very extreme physical reaction to that.
Oh, tell us how you feel about that, Danielle.
Yes.
If you didn't know, I had a bit of a gag reflex too. I'm still suffering through it a bit. Here's my thing. Okay. It's true. Okay. Obviously, if Brene says it, I have to believe it. Okay. But that is it's so frustrating. I think that reaction is I'm so frustrated by it. Feels like it lets people off. And I know that this is clearly my work. This is how I know that I am not done. The universe is not done with me, because Because I'm still here gagging at the fact that that's such a thoughtful thing to say. Like, people will only do. Can you repeat it again,
Are
Kia?
people doing the best they can with the tools they have been given?
This is making me so mad every time. Given and acquired are what the words that come to my mind, because people are given few tools. Between the three of us, we can say as our starting places, there were tools that we were given and the tools that we did not get, and we acquire those tools on a regular basis. This is my one reaction to this, is that when I think about your son's teacher, Kia, when I think about the employees that you've worked with, Jessica, when I think about the employees that I'm working with, I'm just like, at what point do people recognize that they don't have the tools and need to acquire new tools?
More tools. Yep.
So this is not helpful. I'm not going down the kumbaya route, but I do feel like this is clearly my work still, is I have a hard time doing that, because I think, man, if I stopped with the tools that I was given, I wonder how many people would just exist in my life and allow me to be whoever I feel like being, because I have limited tools. And yes, this is not my most enlightened space. Might not be the way you want to wrap up a podcast about kind of fruitful conversation, but
we are living in our truth here.
I cannot, with that statement alone, just because you guys know that I'm going through my own difficult conversations, and I'm just like, that is why I've been exhausted by this work. That's what I want to say. The sitting in the moment and saying, you're doing the best you can with the tools that you have, irrelevant to my process and my tools. I have to sit here and process this, understanding that these are the only tools that you have, whether you've chosen to ignore others, you've never acquired them, whether or not you had resources. I can't even think about that. I have to accept that you are doing the best you can with the tools that you have, and leave it at that. That's the way the conversation, that's the way I've entered it.
It's so interesting because I see it a little bit differently than you. And I love you've expanded on it in the perfect way on how I think about it. So are people doing the best they can with the tools they have been given? And I like how you talk about tools that they have acquired, because maybe I wasn't given the tools to be very emotionally intelligent, but I'm acquiring the tools to be emotionally intelligent. And I already, I incorporated that when I think about it, but it's not in the words. So thank you for expanding on the wonderful work of Brene. She owes you 20 cents or something. I don't know.
I got it.
But, and when you're saying that you didn't necessarily agree that you had to give people the pass, that's exactly how I feel about it. And that I asked the question, are people doing the best they can with the tools they have been given? But also, she's a quite experienced teacher, so I feel like she should have acquired some tools. So she wasn't in the, I don't know. I literally don't know how to say it. Not that I'm not trying to think of a good way to say it. I literally don't know how to say it. I expect more of her. There we go. Is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Can I, so
yes.
The thing is, my fists are clenched. I am so agitated by this, because in a good way, because it's proof that this is still work for me. But it is the people just like that bother me the most. Yeah. Because it's when I'm talking to someone that has the resources and what you would assume. Okay, let me pull back for a second. We assume that they have. And when I say resources, I mean not even, sometimes it's financial resources, but sometimes just the mental faculties, right? The ability to comprehend that they may not be right? Or they may not always handle the situation in the best way. They're the ones that give me the hardest time to have again, if we're being really honest, this is where I have the hardest time having a candid and fruitful conversation, because I'm so infuriated by the fact that you don't even see that you're handling this in a way that could be handled differently, that you could have missed something. Yeah. That doesn't feel like a learning. And, we talk about the things that have been truths with a capital T. I've always gone back to introspection. I just miss it. I really have a hard time being the person that can do the truths with a capital T with people who don't do the truths with a capital T, or don't do that level of introspection. And again, this is why I find it exhausting, because this is the reality, is that you have to do the truths with a capital T, even when somebody else isn't.
Yeah, that's the hard part. Because so many people that you have a conversation with are also not thinking about if you are coming to the conversation with what tools you're coming to the conversation with, right? And so many people want to be the center of the conversation, right? When you were saying like she wants to make it her idea, like she wants something, she might not even be doing it consciously. She probably isn't even doing it consciously, but she's saying like, oh, I'm the teacher. I came up with the solution for this child. Right?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
No, just, no. She
What
came
is
up
it?
with the solution, and it's not even that she came up with the solution, it's that, you know, now all of a sudden when the parents are involved, it's successful. And I don't know that she noticed that before we talked to her.
No, she didn't want to. That's what I'm saying. Is she wanted, it was what do they call it? A self-fulfilling prophecy. Right?
Well,
she wanted it to be true, and so she saw it as true for her.
But there's also a part of this that I'm just going to be let's just take it as a given. I'm just going to be
okay. Today's
the episode
agitation.
where Danielle's agitated. Got it.
It's about 50% of the episodes. But I, as an educator, my assumption of educators is that there is an understanding, while you can, it's almost kind of like doctors too, right? You can have expertise, but you don't have onus over the person.
Yeah.
Oh. So a doctor has the expertise, but that is manipulated and massaged based on the individual. Yes. And in the case, and in this case, when you're working with children, which again is the case, even I think about anybody working with children, not just teachers, but like the implementation with the child involves their parents.
Yeah.
And I think that I also have thought about just this cultural difference that I've noticed, where it's not even that parents don't want to be involved in school. It's just that they literally aren't, or aren't even invited to. And like my son's school, well, before COVID, like had open door policy and all these different things. And I would talk to other parents and it'd be like, no, like I tried to make an appointment to go to the school and they still told me no. You know, their child might be having issues and they want to, you know, go and observe, and the school says no. And so I feel like they're maybe ahead of the curve in that instance, but at the same time, it's still, I find that the teachers act unilaterally. And I find that in every instance that I've been able to observe. And so, yeah, so I wondered if that's also part of it. Like they don't expect us to be involved because that's not normally what happens.
So yes, because I'm living through that similarly. I'm a little less delicate with it. Because I don't know. I don't think this is an Americanism. Maybe it is. I would only know because I am American, right? But it does feel like I don't understand when people start to negate the fact that if it came out of my body, it's kind of not yours, right? I won't say it's mine because it's ultimately they're their own person, but it's not yours. And you don't have that. Like, I don't understand. Are you actually going to say that that's cultural? Maybe there's a level of acceptance, but I struggle with that. I struggle with the notion that you cannot involve a parent. It's science, guys. You have a control and you have the experiment. The control is you do something the same way. The experiment says you change something. And by hypothesis would be that if it changes in a good way, it's because I've changed something. Guess what? Because I have the control to show me that nothing changes if I don't add this other factor.
Okay, Dr. Danielle, yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm on a roll. And my frustration there is that that's not cultural. Science exists everywhere. You know when something's changed. And while I hear you that culturally there's not a sense of involvement in parents in the school system in the way that we would see in the States, I hear you on that and I agree with that. But there is a level of, like you were saying, self-fulfilling prophecy, a level of self-righteousness a bit, where I recognize that something has changed and I choose to ignore it. That's not culture. I wouldn't say that. That is a choice being made. And when you have a conversation with someone, it can be hard to highlight that they're choosing to ignore science. That's
Okay.
leave it. We're choosing to ignore something.
Okay.
I don't want to make it about culture, because I in my gut believe that some other person out there could see what happened and notice that the change was that we've involved the parents.
I agree. I 100% agree. And Jessica, do you have anything before I go on to how the meeting went?
I mean, what did I just say? I always want to make excuses for people, right? And so maybe it is partly a cultural thing in that she doesn't frequently let parents know what is going on in the classroom. Mm-hmm. And so therefore she doesn't have enough experiments for her own brain to have recognized a pattern that lets her say, oh, the change is actually that I'm including the parents.
I do wonder that, because I mean it's a British school in Britain, so it's not overwhelmingly American. So I do wonder if maybe it's limited experience. I hate to say limited experience with involved parents, because I don't think that the British parents aren't involved. Maybe they're just involved at home, and that's a boundary. Like, I do my thing at home and you do your thing at school. But for us, or at least in my experience in America, it's I do my thing at school, but my parents are still involved, and I do my thing at home. If it involves school, then my teacher is involved. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anything. I mean, in my mind, I don't even know if she's like a first-year teacher, right? Like, to me, if I was a first-year teacher, I don't know if I would be able to put 2 and 2 together and be like, oh, duh, that's because I wouldn't know if it was as obvious as it seems to us sitting on the outside. I don't know her experience.
So can I note that what I've
no
more notes from you.
You see what I have to
yes,
do?
what do you recognize?
Ladies and gentlemen, do you see what I have to deal with?
Let's put it in the footnotes, Danielle.
Anyone want to adopt a friend? That's really all I'm asking. With lots of thoughts. Anyway, now you made me forget my thought.
Oh, I'm sorry. When you wreck. Okay, then I'll go on. And then
you just want to remember
it. Yeah. So what did you say right before, Jessica? You guys
she was making excuses.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say.
Okay,
thank you. It was right there, tip of my tongue. Again, in this process, what I'm realizing, I think I said it last time we talked, is that having people that are invested in your growth is vital to this process. Mm-hmm. And obviously, if there were an angel and a devil on Kia's shoulders right now.
Yeah.
But because even as you bring up the alternative, Jessica, I do get annoyed when I hear people making excuses, right? Like, it's kind of, this person could have done this. And I'm like, yeah, but they could have done this. They could have been in this other role. But even hearing that calms me. It's like I hear it and then I'm like, okay, I can take a breath. So in knowing that I get agitated, I surround myself with people. I'm very lucky to be able to surround myself with people like you all, like Doug, like, just like the people in my life that see things differently. And I think that's such the importance of like diversity of thought, because then you end up not necessarily, the conversation happens better because you've had other lenses to move it through. And you assess, okay, no, that still doesn't feel right. Or, okay, that does feel right. Or maybe I don't have to go in, blazing. I can come in from a calmer, more thoughtful demeanor, because I'm going to get my thought across anyway. And I just don't have to do it in the way that my initial reaction is, because now I've heard Jessica say she might not be exposed to the way that we're thinking of it. And that I just want to note that was helpful, despite you all not wanting me to share my notes.
We always want you to share. I just like to be difficult.
She likes to act out around us because she's comfortable.
I know, Leo.
That's
what
it is.
Shoot.
So the conversation happens, and I'm going to go through some of the things that we've talked about. Some of them were I was cognizant of, and some of them, after I was thinking about everything we've talked about, I'm like, oh, well, either I could have done this or did do this actually based on things that we've talked about. So in one of our episodes, I believe it's number 3, we talk about what makes a good environment for a difficult conversation. And when I asked for the meeting, she said we can meet at school or we can meet online. And I decided I wanted to meet at the school. 1, because I wanted to talk to her face, and 2, because I felt like, not necessarily if I was going to encroach, but it could be on her turf, right? So a place she's familiar with. So it was like, let's do that. I mean, she would have probably done it at school anyways if it was online, but I wanted to see her, so I would go to school to see her.
Did you ever wonder, it was a question, I was like, did you ever wonder if physically being there would make her uncomfortable, like as an aggressive stance?
Good so question. I did think about it when we got there. I thought about, it's like 2 against 1, because I wanted my husband to be there so he didn't hear it secondhand, and also because he always, at least I feel like he always has better questions than me, or we just have different questions, because I'm the mechanics, how is this working, and he's the how is this feeling type of thing, and how does he feel and interact, and all these other things are important. I'm just not thinking about them in the exact moment. I'm thinking about how to make this successful in the process type of way. So, so we met at the school. I wanted to meet in person. She picked a good spot. It was away from prying eyes. It was outside and the weather was beautiful, so that helped. The time of day and the allotted amount of time to discuss, I felt this is such an important point, because I think it's been so long since I've been involved in a parent-teacher conference, as in I was the child, or, well, I wasn't there. Anyway, I believe you get like at least 30 minutes with the teacher. But at my son's school, and I think like at every school, these, what do they call them? I'll just call them parent-teacher conferences because I can't remember what they call them. You get 10 minutes.
Wow. It's 15 over in my hood.
Oh, she gets 5 whole extra minutes. Yeah, it's 10 minutes once a term, and they have 3 terms a year. So once a term, you get 10 minutes with the teacher. We got 40 minutes with her, and I felt like that was great, because we set aside this separate time. And I should say, that's not to say that you can't decide to be with the teacher at different points or whatever, but when it's at parent-teacher conference time, you get your 10-minute slot and someone else is coming right after you. Having the appropriate amount of time to discuss it, like we couldn't, even if that no stickers day hadn't happened, we couldn't have waited until the half-term conference to talk about that, because it would have taken way more than 10 minutes. But yeah, we talked for about 40 minutes, which is, excellent. And she set aside a good amount of time for us. She set aside an entire hour for us to talk. So that was great. And then also, I talked about it a little bit, but making sure my husband was there, because we have different perspectives and different things we'll take away, different questions. And I didn't want to go to the meeting, talk to her, and then try to translate it back to him, and then be like, oh, either I didn't think to ask that, which is always happens, always happens, or I think I got the feeling from something she said about this, rather than, it being direct. So that was my environment thing. So Danielle already asked an excellent question about, did I think about it seeming aggressive? And I didn't think about that until I got there. And quite honestly, that's because my husband is bigger and taller, and he already is maybe kind of imposing. So I don't know, but at least it's,
I just want to know, knowing both of you, you're actually the scary one.
I am. I absolutely am. It's hilarious to me when people are like, oh wow, and he's just such a big taper. Yeah, he is. It's me you need to worry about.
But Kia, so my follow-up question to the first excellent question that I had that you all didn't want to hear is, it's the end of the season, gals and guys. It's spicy days. Do you feel like it's your responsibility to own someone's perception of you?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Because if he weren't the huge cuddly teddy bear that he is, right? That it shouldn't matter. Like, he gets to show up for his son in the way someone who is very small and unopposing gets to show up for their son, right? Like, do you think you even have to think about that?
It's one of those things where, like, I wish I didn't, but I feel like I still have to.
I hear that. We could go down a whole rabbit hole of the things about various communities that they shouldn't have to do. But I think the way you said that made me think, I've asked the question, you see it as something that you thought it, okay, but like, should you even have to? And there are people out there that would never have to, even if they were coming with an aggressive stance.
Yeah, I think it's difficult for me to answer because I am the aggressor. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I always show up as the aggressor. Like, if I requested this conversation, I had a reason. And so even though I physically don't feel that way, I feel that way. I always feel as if I am the aggressor, even though I don't physically seem imposing. And then I was thinking, like, do I care? And I think that's maybe the difference, because I have the privilege of not caring. I don't have to care if somebody is uncomfortable with me. I never have to think about that because I'm a tiny little white woman. And so I had a different reaction to that. I was thinking, well, you're both kind of coming from, not Danielle and Kia, but Kia and your husband. Kia and your husband and the teacher should all be coming to that conversation without any aggression at all. It should feel like we want what's best for this human, for this tiny human. We all three want what's best for this tiny human. I think there are some cases where that's true. There is like a kind of a neutral ground to settle on, and some cases where maybe you have to think about if you're coming off as imposing or aggressive or, I don't know, whatever, in a different way. But that's how I come from it. I don't know about your experiences.
I thought of it a little bit in my growth in empathy, and that less in my husband being considered imposing, but in the 2 against 1 type thing. But I feel like I'm getting a little ahead, but I feel like it got what I needed, because not only just us both showing up at the meeting, not only us both emailing, even though I didn't realize we both were emailing, but the concentrated effort, this concentrated front, definitely, I think, got what at least I wanted and what we needed, because in the end, so like during the conversation, she talked about us working together for what's best for him and a few other things. And in the end, like, now we get notes in his little reading folder, because he's supposed to be reading these books, and so they write the book and where he left off and all these other things. And sometimes we'll get a note like, she wasn't at school yesterday and today, and so she wanted us to make sure she knew that, and if he didn't get stickers, then that's why. Or one day he got 6 out of his 7 stickers, and she let us know that it was because during maths for all my American friends, during maths he wasn't focused and he wasn't paying attention and he was rolling around on the carpet and those types of things. And so we've got this back and forth communication now that I really appreciate.
Wow.
Because that's not what it was before.
I just want to celebrate. I feel like I speak in like those what are they? Not emojis, but the emoticons.
The reactions
yeah.
to like text messages.
Well, I speak in GIFs.
Where you get the like, haha. Somebody likes
I
it.
would like to exclaim this moment, just because like I think that the reality is that the more you communicate, okay, if the option is under communicate and over communicate, it rarely hurts to over communicate. Over communication tends to be annoying, but rarely detrimental. Under communicating often is less annoying because you're hearing less, you just don't know, but more detrimental because you leave loads of room for assumption. Mm-hmm. And what I hear you saying is I want to just like support it 150%, because every time I've had a difficult conversation, especially as of recent, there's been this hesitance to say more. Like people don't want to say more because they think it'll hurt your feelings, or they think we don't want to be uncomfortable. And I'm just like, if you tell me where you are, I can meet you there. But if you don't tell me where you are, I'm lost and I'm making assumptions and actually getting really agitated by you. And in a way that your teacher, who I kind of wanted to knuck if you buck with, now that she's communicating, you're seeing that, oh, there is this potential for interest in him,
right,
and a desire to support. But with her wanting to do it on her own, it's just like, why? Why?
And what you're talking about with the under communicating, over communicating, just to draw it back to us for a little bit. So I in episode 6, we talk about setting limits and expectations. And one of my goals from that meeting was to set the expectation that we work on what's best for him together. Like, I do understand the classroom is where your area of expertise is, but this little human is my area of expertise. And so
there you go.
When he's not at school, when he's not at school, he's with us. We raised him. We continue to instill our values in him. And he's also developing his own little values, but just, I wanted to set the expectation. And I think even before the meeting, she got it, because I didn't even have to bring it up. Like, I got my expectation without saying anything. So what I was communicating, but even before the meeting, I guess, was letting her know that, hey, this is not, we're not against each other. We are trying to work together. And I'm really happy with the outcome so far, at least.
Wow. Man, Kia, what a phenomenal breakdown. That's what I'll say. What a phenomenal breakdown of all of the lessons that we've learned, just like all coming to a head here in this conversation that you've been so kind to share with us.
This beautiful, beautiful conversation where luckily I got what I wanted. We don't have to talk about what would have happened if I didn't get what I wanted.
Do you think she did? Do you think the teacher did?
I think she did, because or at least I think she partially did. I think one of the things she wanted to communicate, because she actually said it, was that this intervention wasn't, to us, it felt like a big deal. And maybe it's because we weren't involved and it just kind of seemed like it came out of the blue, but that this was something that was normal for not only a boy, but a boy his age with the type of, it's not, I won't say it's rigorous academic things, but maybe more than what he would be used to if he were going to school in a different country. Because I will say the British he started his formal schooling when he was 4, had just turned 4. So yeah. I think, I didn't say what she wanted to communicate. She wanted to communicate, that it wasn't like a big deal, that this was a small intervention, that she was trying to prepare him for his next grade. And since it's the summer term, and after this term, he would be going into the next year, she's trying to prepare. So all these things, I'm like, oh, okay, this, that makes sense. This makes sense. But because we hadn't been talking about it and it just appeared, the shock was apparent. And then not only did it appear, but then it randomly disappeared. I mean, he's not a terrible kid. Why did he get no stickers? Like, I don't know if he gets a lunchtime sticker, but can we get a sticker for something?
Get a showed up sticker.
So yeah, I think the fact that we're actually communicating more is great. Yeah.
Wow. Well, thanks for sharing with us, Kia, because I mean, not only did you bring up a bunch of things that we learned in this season together, but you also brought up a lot of points that maybe we can talk about next season, like community perspectives, racial perspectives, cultural differences, even opening up communication by just trying.
Yeah.
By just putting in a little effort, by being the first one to step out. And so I'm looking forward to talking about all those things in the next season with you girls. Oh my gosh.
We did it.
We did it. Any final thoughts? Any final things that you guys want to celebrate? Any personal reflections? Anything? Any ta-ta for nows?
Toodaloo. I usually do a toodaloo.
Okay, well, until next season, everybody, I keep having candid and fruitful conversations.
Open up.
Bye.
Toodles.
That brings us to the end of this Canned Fruit podcast episode. Thank you, listeners, for joining us today. We also want to thank our assistant producer, Brianna Javon from What's Good Productions. If you enjoyed our show, we invite you to connect with us on Instagram at cannedfruitpod and email us at cannedfruitpod@gmail.com. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or anywhere you listen to your favorite podcasts, and be sure to come back next time for another discussion as we continue to have candid and fruitful conversations. Until then, this is Jess, Kia, and Danielle, and don't forget to open up.